here, it says go live. I have like 50 different freaking screens open, but hopefully all of them will work. And I see the live showing up. So if you guys are watching, hopefully you are. Yes, excellent connection. Let me know if you can hear me and see me. And Leah, I'm going to have you do a quick audio check because last time that was my issue.
Okay, check, check, check. Audio from Leah Neaderthal.
All right, so guys, I am so thrilled. We have 4 people watching, so guys, give me the A-OK. And now it's also, there we go. Wait, something is not working here because I can hear the backup on it. This is going to be a problem. I'm so sorry. I'm hearing I can't turn off the audio on this. So let me just do this. Okay, that's why. Okay, I'm good. Okay, sorry guys.
It wouldn't be a live event if there wasn't some sort of like tech hiccup.
You know what it is I had it open in 2 different browsers. And so one of them was talking to me and I was muting it in another one. So I'm so thrilled to have Leah here with me today. Leah is my sales coach. We worked together a couple of years ago, and working with you, I was able to kind of figure out what is the way that I want to package my services and how do I want to talk about them so that people actually want to buy them. And then once I get on a call with them, how do I get them to do the thing that I want them to do? And so I wanted to bring Leah on today because so often I'm talking with people about, you were getting people to discover you, and then we get them to your email or we get them to book a consult call with you. And it's like, but what next? What then? You get the consult call. Yes. Awesome. What the hell am I supposed to say on this call? So that's why I wanted to bring Leah in to talk about. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So tell me a little bit about your background, how you got into doing this, and how you came up with your ways of teaching people this process.
Yeah. So long story short, I'm not a salesperson. I happen to be a sales coach. So obviously, big question, how does somebody who doesn't come from sales become a sales coach? So I taught myself. And now I teach entrepreneurs, mostly women business owners, how to get more clients that they want, get more yeses, which is what we all love, and get paid dramatically more. So in the way that I teach people how to do that is with the methodology that I sort of stumbled upon through years of research. My background is in corporate marketing for very big companies. And when I started my own business, I was like, how hard could that be? I'm in marketing. I got this. And what I found was that I was pretty good at the marketing part, but there is a whole sales part that just seemed like me fumbling in the dark. And it was so difficult for me and so paralyzing that I actually went back and got a job, which is a total mistake. Don't recommend. But then I recommitted to learning how to actually get clients, read 65 books, taught myself everything I possibly could, used the things that worked and felt comfortable, ditched anything else that felt salesy. And now that's what I teach women and other business owners how to do today.
Yeah, I love that. It's about 65 books of just like reading what the experts are saying and figuring out what feels good to you. And I love the distinction you made of like, I know marketing, so I should be able to do sales, and recognizing that. And this is the way I always think of it. Marketing is getting people to know who you are. Sales is getting people to give you money. Like they're not always the same. So where do you see kind of that handoff from marketing to sales?
Well, I think what's interesting about how clients buy is that clients are actually in a sales process before they sort of make themselves known to you. So when they find your website and they're reading your blog, when people see your content on LinkedIn, when people start following along and sort of tuning in, a lot of times we consider that marketing, and that is marketing, right? But all of that is also in service of the sales process. I think about the sales process starting when people opt into something. They get into your orbit. But the role of marketing is to bring them there and get them ready to do that. When you can do that really well, it makes the sales conversations, the sales process, everything from like that first point of contact all the way to signing a contract, it makes it a lot more effective.
Yeah. And, I love that you said like people are in the sales process before they make themselves clear to you. Like if you're a Facebook ads person, there are going to be people out there looking for like, should I run Facebook ads? And they're already thinking about who they want to hire or whether they want to DIY it and take a course. They're already kind of preparing themselves for the sale before they know that you are going to be the consultant that they hire. So recognizing that as part of your content strategy of, all right, what are the questions that people need to get answered before they book the consult call? What are the ways that I can prep people using social media, using my website, using my emails, using those kinds of marketing strategies to make sales easier, right?
Absolutely. And the thing is, you're totally right. People are out there looking for things, they're searching for things, even if they don't know that they're doing it, they might be clicking on things that sort of indicate a particular interest or preference or problem, right? But the thing is that they're going through, once somebody's identified a problem, they're going through this sort of education process and they're learning about somebody. I want it to be you. Right. And that's what we help people do. Right. But like, that's why it's so important to have a content strategy. That's why it's so important to, like talk about what you're doing, not even in a sales way, but maybe just how you think about solving the problem. Because, if you are, there's this quote that I love from this researcher from like the early internet times, but it says, we sort of write ourselves into being. And if when you post on your blog, when you update your website, when you're showing up on LinkedIn, you start to write yourself into being and become findable to the people who have the problem that you solve.
I really like that. And also identifying what are those problems that you're solving and how can you position yourself so that not just those people can find you, but so that they know that you understand them.
Yes.
So they want to take that next step. So what are some ways that you can kind of articulate what it is that you do in a way that people actually want to reach out to you?
Yeah, well, I think the first step, and you've heard me say this about a million times.
I'm like, I know what she's going to go with here. I'm just queuing.
I know.
Bump set, take it.
Right. The first and most important thing is communicating your work in terms of the value that it provides to your clients. A lot of us are really comfortable talking about what we do from a functional perspective. I'm a designer. I do, marketing communications or what have you. But the truth is that clients actually don't care about what you do. Clients only care about what you do in as much as it will affect some sort of change in their own business or their life. And so honestly, everything that you could be doing to like get sales starts with value. And it's communicating your work in according to value. It's what starts to signal the right people to come to you. It's what, when they land on your website, it's what shows them, hey, you're in the right place. You want people to say, oh God, I'm so glad I found her. I'm so glad I found him. Right. It's what helps people, take the next step and reach out, because they can very clearly and explicitly see how you can help their business. And then, of course, it helps in sales conversations. It allows you to charge more. It gives you a wrapper for your proposals. It really trickles down all the way through the sales process, but it all starts with value.
Yes. And I love that focus on what's in it for the reader. You can have your website say, hi, I'm a yoga teacher in Omaha. Or you can say, I use yoga to help women with lower back pain. I'm a therapist and I have all of these credentials and here's where I went to school, but I don't care about that unless you say, I can help you feel less alone and help you work through social anxiety because I have these credentials, right? The credentials and the titles that we give ourselves are only a benefit to our readers in relationship to what we can do for them with those titles and credentials.
And you're so right. I mean, listen, we go to school, we have certain certifications, we, have certain skills, and all of that is great. But it really, I consider that like supporting documentation.
Yeah.
It can make somebody feel good about hiring you, right? If you are women certified business, if you have a certain life coach training or what have you, yoga training. but it only comes after the value. When I talk to business owners and I say, tell me about what you do, and they tell me where they went to school and how many years they've been in business or how many years they did their career, I know that there's a little bit of education that's going to have to happen if they really want to start getting seen and getting clients.
Yes. So once we get these kinds of value statements on our website, in our content, on our LinkedIn, wherever our people are hanging out and may see it, and they take that next step and they book that consult call. And let's say we're talking to service providers at this point, not so much e-commerce folks, that's a little bit of a different funnel, but we're talking to people who are providing direct services, or maybe even some course creators, but mostly if you get a consult call, what happens then? How do you make sure that you're getting the answers to the questions that you need and also not giving away way too much? Because, from doing a discovery call with me years and years ago, I was like, oh, let me just give you an entire SEO strategy on this call. And you're like, no, that's not, no, stop.
Yeah, there are a few things. Listen, sales conversations are a whole other, we could spend a couple hours down the rabbit hole of sales conversations, but there are a few things that I would recommend as people think about, especially if you don't feel super comfortable. This is the point where a lot of people just freeze up, or they're not sure if they're doing it right. So the first thing I would think about is getting yourself in the mindset of money will not happen on this call. This is not a direct, you're not cold calling people to sell them, magazine subscriptions. You remember when you used to get phone calls at dinner time or whatever? Money is not happening on this call. And that's when you can sort of acknowledge that, it actually frees you up to actually have a conversation. Mm-hmm. Your job on this call is to ask great questions, to listen, and really put yourself in that listening mode. You should be talking about 30% of the time. They should be talking 70% of the time. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. Just money will not happen on this call. Money happens later. All right.
Yeah. There are a lot of sales coaches out there that are like, do not get off the call until you have a credit card. And I'm like, ooh, that makes me feel so pushy.
Yeah.
Especially because you know that people might be having conversations with multiple people. And so if all they're doing is being talked at with the same information that's on the website, then they don't feel heard. They don't feel seen. They just feel like another call that is the same as every other call.
And the problem with that is that it actually doesn't map to how the purchase funnel, how anybody buys anything. You have to go through the stages: awareness to consideration, awareness, familiarity, consideration, purchase, loyalty. And if you try to go from awareness and familiarity to the purchase, you skip that process, that part of the funnel where people are like, all right, I've sort of heard what they've said. I've, done whatever I need to do, talk to somebody who I need to talk to, check this thing, check that thing, make a plan, and then ultimately purchase. And so all of these people who are like, don't get off the phone. Here's how you close them in one call. I just think that's
so uncomfortable.
it's so uncomfortable. And the reason it's uncomfortable is the reason you feel it feels pushy is because it tries to circumvent the process where people go through to purchase. Sometimes that funnel happens in 5 minutes. You click something on Amazon, you read a review, click it on Amazon, whatever. Sometimes it can take a lot longer, and most of the time it does take longer.
Yeah, I love that. So you said awareness, familiarity. I can't say familiarity. Awareness, familiarity, consideration, purchase, loyalty. And so where do people usually come into that discovery call? They're already familiar with you, ideally. They're aware of you, they're familiar with you, and then they're starting to get into that consideration phase. And depending on how familiar they are with you, that can guide what the conversation is. But, in so many of these situations, those people are reaching out to the service providers, and they've already reviewed your website, and they've already looked at your packages if you have them, and they already know who you are, and it's up to you to get to know them, which is why you have to listen instead of talk.
Exactly. So that's, you asked earlier, where does on the marketing sales divide? It happens right between familiarity and consideration.
Okay.
Marketing awareness and familiarity are what we would consider marketing, right? Lead gen. And once the conversation starts, that's in consideration. I mean, roughly, right? Consideration, purchase, loyalty are all part of the sales part.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so how do you make sure that you're getting the information that you need to follow up with people? Because if you know you're not getting the money on the discovery call, which is fine, right? Like that's what we're going for. It happens to be occasionally when people are like, okay, cool, but how do I buy? And I'm like, I wasn't ready for that there yet.
Listen, let that be a great problem to have,
Right?
We're only talking about the mindset
Right.
for the call.
Let that be the outlier, but not the expectation. But how do you know that on that, 20-30 minute call that you're having with people that you can get the information that you need to be able to both follow up and give people the information they need to make an informed decision?
Right. Great question. So I think that a lot of times people go into these conversations, service providers go into a conversation and they ask questions that establish scope, right? How many of this do you need? Maybe some really light sort of what's the problem you're facing, that sort of thing. But they sort of keep it on a very surface level to get to the information that will help you follow up or write a proposal or what have you. It's really about asking questions that get to the value that your client is looking for. And when you can ask questions like that, a proposal sort of writes itself in the sense that, so here's a perfect example. Somebody says, we need to have better, marketing communications because our marketing isn't working. Well, okay, a way to go a little deeper. First of all, the first answer is always like the easiest answer. The gems are when you probe on the question.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the key question to ask is, why is that important? So why is it important to have better marketing or have better communications? Well, because we, XYZ, right? And stick with it until it feels like you're hitting bedrock. Keep asking, why is that important? Why is that important? And when you can do that, first of all, you get the information that you're looking for, but it also establishes your confidence and your credibility. People who are afraid do not stick with the question and probe and, incite a better conversation. So there are some ancillary benefits to asking good questions and sticking with the questions.
Such a coach. Just ask why 7 times.
Right, I know.
It has to be 7 times, and I get to why number 5, and I'm like, oh my God, don't make me think anymore about this.
Oh, listen, I know, and it's hard, and sometimes people don't want to engage in that kind of conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself is a signal of maybe where they are, maybe their, I don't know, level of burnout or to whatever degree they just want this problem fixed. But it also can be a sign if you're trying to establish value and somebody says, no, how much is 2 blog posts? Then that might be a sign that you may not be a good fit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they're just looking for kind of that surface conversation and you're asking deeper questions they can't answer, then do they value the work that you're going to bring to this?
Right. And that's a call that you can make, in the sales conversation.
Yeah. And so how do you make sure that you're not giving away the farm by trying to prove that you're able to support the client?
Oh my God, Meg, this is the okay. Because this is the problem, right? I work with, and I'm sure you do too, really smart people who want to help and can so quickly see what the real issues are,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, but the risk there is that you do sort of give away so much, and you give away too much, and then when people, if people don't end up signing on, you can feel a little taken advantage of, right?
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, my answer to your theoretical about we need better marketing communications because your marketing isn't working. Like my brain leapt to, okay, we need better marketing tracking systems to know whether or not it's working. We need to be able to track everything that's happened, and like I went into problem solving mode instead of listening mode in that moment of this theoretical discovery call.
Yeah, no, and that's because you know so much about this. I mean, you could diagnose and solve this problem in 10 minutes if you really had the opportunity to. The key thing to remember for sales conversations to avoid this situation is resist the urge to solve the problem. Just resist anytime you feel yourself like basically doing what you're doing, or what you said you had, the direction you said you had gone, just sort of leave it in your brain, right? And you could sort of nod to it in the sense of, oh, well, you're going to want to think about tracking, right? You're going to want to think about, systems or what have you. That's okay, right? You haven't told them anything about tracking. You haven't told them what to do with tracking and what not to do and where it could be falling down, right? But just resist the urge to solve the problem. I have people who like literally put that as on a Post-it on their computers, and instead do the nod. And if you want to provide value in a conversation without solving the problem, oftentimes simply restating the problem as you see it, right? Having done that really good questioning and sticking with the question to get to the value, sort of paraphrasing the problem as you see it with your layer of intelligence, right? Sometimes that alone provides value. And actually that alone provides value because oftentimes it brings clarity to people on the other end of the phone. So
they feel heard because you're repeating back, this is what I heard you say.
Yes.
And maybe adding, something about how you can help them with it or what the next step could be without articulating, here's the 5-step plan that I'm coming up with for you.
Exactly.
And then if you have somebody who you are going to write a proposal for, if that's the next step in the process, you get the information, you understand what their problem is, you see a path to how you could help them. Talk me through how you can write a proposal that feels custom to that person and has a solution that will work for them, but also doesn't take you a week or two to write.
Yeah, no, proposals, before people come to me, they say, I just spent 3 days on a proposal. I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. So again, because this is, multiple rabbit holes we can go into, but I will say, the thing about a proposal is if you can remember that the proposal is about helping the client fall in love with their future. The proposal is not about you and your methodology and your credentials and your process and all of that stuff, right? So if you can quickly sort of summarize where they are, say, these are going to be the outcomes of our work, right? Here's how you will be different and better, right? Here are, I like to offer 3 ways to move forward. And then some supporting documentation at the end, right? Some like an appendix with your bio or whatever. And then a means for them to move forward. Add a signature line, right? You never want to be the barrier for them to move forward. So that's where you can, cut down a proposal so that it feels specific to them and custom to them because it is about them. It's not about you.
I like that idea of having all of your credentials and approach and all of that in the appendix. And that can stay the same for almost everyone. The proposal's really about, letting the client fall in love with their future. And if you do it that way and you make it about the client, you don't have to say, here's all the things that we're going to track and here's all the steps that we're going to take. You can have after they commit to something, you can then have a statement of work that goes through that if that's part of your process. But you don't need to outline every single step of everything you're going to do in this, it's the 3-month thing. In week 1, we're doing this and this and this and this. People don't necessarily care about that yet. They care that you know that you're listening, that you're going to help them get the results that they're seeking.
Exactly. And I think that part of this is, even before the proposal, because one thing we certainly don't want to waste 3 days, 4 days on a proposal that doesn't get a yes, but we also don't want to waste time on a proposal if the proposal is not the right step. So just in the sales conversation, part of the discovery needs to be, well, where are you in this process? Are you in like fact-finding mode, or are you in, I am ready to start solving this problem mode? Because, I think a lot of service providers sort of jump to a proposal because the proposal feels like it's closer to the sale, right? And, and it gets you out of the conversation. So I would just, encourage everyone who's listening to this, don't skip over the discovery for the proposal, right? As part of the discovery, figure out if the proposal really is the right next step. And if it's not, if they're really in fact finding mode, for example, then set a time to reconnect, because I don't want you wasting your, a few hours on a proposal for a client that's not even ready to say yes.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Just saying, like, it sounds like you're still figuring this out. Can we talk in 2 months and figure out if that's a better time for it?
Totally.
Not kicking the can down the road, but giving a timeline for when do you think you'll be ready to make a decision about this?
Of course. And you can follow up with some bullet points. For nearly every sale, when you're a service provider, your client needs to talk to somebody else, whether it's a team of 25 in a big company, or a spouse, or a business partner. And so giving them something to work with to what we call socialize, right? So they can socialize you to other folks, just so that they have it. And sometimes, another thing that's interesting about this approach is that people do not like hearing a no, right? And so oftentimes it's the case where you say, it sounds like, you're not really ready. I'm going to send you some bullets, but why don't we pick it up in a few? And some people, my clients have experienced this, where they're like, no. Actually, we do want to do it. Like, let's set up this next meeting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Sometimes people, they just expect you to want to leap to work with them. And then when you're like, maybe this isn't the right time, then things shift because they're interested in working with you at that point. It's like not playing hard to get in like a traditional sense, but just being aware of whether someone is a good fit for you or not, and being honest about that, and making sure that you're screening people as much as they're screening you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny, the phrase, I was like, oh, they're all going to think this is like playing hard to get. The thing is that you are a business owner. You have limited time, you have limited resources, and you have to, spend that time in the way that's most effective and most productive. And so you spinning your wheels on a proposal just because you think it's kind of the next step, we don't, as business owners, we don't have the luxury of just wasting a bunch of time like that.
Or you spinning your wheels on a proposal because you're not sure how to close a discovery call without saying, I'll send you a proposal.
Yes.
That was a trap that I fell into. It's just like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know what I want the offer to be yet. So I need some time to go think about it. So talk to me a bit about maybe not even like productized consulting, but knowing what your options can be before you start that conversation and then adjusting them on the call.
Yeah. So I think the trap that a lot of people fall into is they go into a conversation to, do some discovery, and then they say, well, I'm going to go away and think about it and send you a proposal, right? But you don't know if that person is in the same ballpark price-wise, and you can lose momentum. I'd like to see, you be able to at least offer and share what the options are with some pricing, even in that first conversation. Otherwise, again, you could be totally in the wrong ballpark, and this person really isn't a prospect for you. So I like to encourage people to not have like everything fully baked, especially with services. It's not like having an online course where it's a little more like programmatized, right? Whatever.
We'll say programmatized. We'll say systematized, or product. We'll say productized. We'll say productized.
Productized, right? Okay. I was really into programmatized. You guys heard.
I like programmatized.
No. Productized. But I do encourage you to get to a level of fluency in your products and services, right? And so your offers and services. So if you do marketing consulting, for example, oftentimes there is, how to solve the problem, right? The problem that most people come to you with. So what would be necessary to solve that problem in the best of all cases, right? And what would you charge for that? Now, I do, I'm a big fan of value-based pricing. I don't think that you should price based on hours or deliverables or any of that. So sort of putting this together in a program and it's, understanding the value that this set of services would provide to your client, and then attaching a number to that, not to the scope, but to the value. And so I think if you can do that, like, just to the degree that you plus a Google Doc is like a set of offers, right? This is just a level, you don't have to make a sales page for it. You don't have to do all of that. You plus some notes and bullets on a Google Doc is a level of fluency, right? And then just having that in your back pocket, so that you can say, all right, well, here are a couple of ways that we can move forward. Saves you a ton of time and gets that agreement so that that what you want to charge, they can pay it.
Yeah. I felt a lot of questions. I don't know which direction to go. I would say if people are still in that phase of doing line items in their proposals, or thinking about what's their hourly cost and how many hours is it going to take, how do you go through the mindset shift of pulling kind of the hours and the deliverables out of the way that you talk about things and switching over to, not just it's going to take me 25 hours to build this website and I charge $100 an hour, so it's a $2,500 website, but really more like, well, how many clients are you going to get if you have this gorgeous new website, and what's the ROI on that, and what's the value to your business of having this asset? What are some of the shifts that you see people going through in that mindset work of adjusting from hourly to value?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, great question. So I think the first step really goes back to the sales conversation, uncovering the value. A lot of people, if I ask them today, like, what is the value of this work to your client, they might not know. And so, of course, it's hard you have to go on hours or deliverables or what have you. If you can have the client tell you, if you can uncover the value that this work will bring, then you have a starting point. And if the work is going to, like you said, be able to help you be able to get so many more clients, and sometimes it's not a numerical thing. Sometimes it's, finally look like the number one provider relative to a competitor, right? What is the value of that? And attaching a number to it is, there are a lot of sort of mental shifts, but the first one is really starting with the value instead of your scope. And, if you, gosh, I'm like, now I'm thinking where to take this too, because I'm like, do I take, all right.
Pick one and I'll follow you.
Okay.
Fun of interviews.
I know. So, and you have to be confident that this is the price that you are charging, and start talking to people who have the value you provide, right? This is why, literally, I know all the time, it all goes back to value. If on your website you say, I write blog posts so you don't have to, right? Then the people who come to you are going to be like, how much is a blog post? And then it's very hard for you when you get down to the proposal to say, this is the, grand value of this work together, because you started the conversation on like, I will write blog posts for you. But if you start at, I help companies' websites convert X number of people, or, be seen as the number one provider, then you're starting the conversation up here. So saying a number up here won't be so far off.
And blog posts can be part of that. Blog posts can be the whole thing of that, but we're not talking about the deliverable. We're talking about the outcome.
Exactly. And when you put a program together, right, a set of services, and you start on the level of value, it actually gives you a little more flexibility in how you want to solve the problem. Is it going to be 4 blog posts or 12, right. 8 blog posts, right? Is it 3 revisions or 4 revisions? You know what I'm saying? Like there's more flexibility for things that come up, So yes, you can use all the tools at your disposal when you start the conversation at value.
Yes. And one of the things you kind of threw in there at one point is like, as you're writing or as you're talking to people, you like to give them 3 options to choose between. And I think I remember you teaching me this, where it's like, instead of it being yes or no, it's like, which one? It's not, you will pay me $10,000 or we will not work together. It's like, do you want to pay me $10,000, $5,000, or $2,000? And then it's a choice between three instead of a binary. And people feel like, well, I got to pick one of these, right? So tell me more about kind of the psychology behind the three options, and how to make sure that they each can stand on their own as something that you actually want to deliver.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that I always say is like, that you heard me say was, if you give one option, it's yes or no. That's 50-50, even in the best case scenario.
Yes.
If you give three options, then the choices are yes, yes, no, yes, no. Yeah. Right. So it automatically, your likelihood of getting a yes is automatically 75% without doing anything. So, but how do you make sure that they're different enough and provide enough value, sort of stand alone, so that they're options that could be, interesting and worthwhile to your clients? So let me see. So the first option I like to offer is something that is sort of really stands on its own, right? It's clearly defined value, clearly defined engagement, and clearly defined price. Maybe if you're doing marketing communications, it's a strategy, something or other, right? Or it's a workshop, right? Something that it's like, if you just want me to come do something and go away, then that's,
it's a finite period of time, and there's a clear deliverable at the end of it.
Exactly. The second and third options are essentially, if you want to almost like solve this problem even more, or solve this problem even better. So maybe the second option builds, and I do think, in my approach, these build, right? So maybe the second option has, that same first option plus an additional set of services to, help the clients, and together you solve the problem more effectively. Maybe the third option is, again, like even more, right? Maybe it's a longer duration. Maybe it gives them access to things that they wouldn't otherwise have access to in the other two. And and on each of these, options, I like to incorporate things that are assets that you have that are low lift for you and high high value to your clients. So guides, resources, templates, archives, other things that provide additional value and perceived value, allow you to charge more, but don't detract so much so that you get burned out.
Oh, I love that. And I like that idea of like the lowest tier offer can stand alone, and then you can build on to help with implementation or support in some way. The way that I do this, if we want to have an example, and I think I have learned this from you and applied it within my own business, is I have a self-study course. You can learn everything that you need to learn from a self-study course. But I personally am not good at self-study courses. I cannot carve out the time to sit down and go through it. I need group coaching. So I added the second tier. Group coaching, show up once or twice a month, ask your questions, will give you the accountability that you need. And then my highest tier has a done with you service where people are getting one-to-one, not group. But the content is all the same across all of those levels. The things we're talking about are the same, whether you're doing it yourself, you're doing it together, you're doing it with me. All of it is the same. So it's not like I have to learn new things for different levels and I have to provide different outcomes. It's like, we're all doing the same thing. It's just how much me do you need to get it done?
That's a perfect example. And the thing is, after you go through this whole process of, talking to people, writing a proposal, coming up with your pricing, all of that, the last thing people want to hear is that's too expensive, right? And when you can offer three levels, one of which, obviously one is the lower option, if they want a cheaper option, you've already given it to them. So you don't have to sort of go do this back and forth of, well, can you take this out and can you do this or whatever? It's like, this is it. You now get to decide based on what I have put together that I know will help you solve your problem.
And if you keep getting that feedback of, oh, it's too expensive, I think there might be one of two problems that you're working with. One is you haven't articulated the value of what they're going to get from that. If it's just like, well, I can't pay that much for that. Okay, well, think about, let's reposition the offer so that people know that the outcomes are going to be greater, or you're talking to the wrong people. And you need to figure out either how to change your offers for the people you are working with, or to get yourself in front of people who have bigger budgets, who have more ability to, or, maybe they need a payment plan. Cool. But figuring out how to get in front of the people that can value what it is that you do at the price that you are giving to it. So how do you find the right people? Now we're going back to marketing, but that's okay.
We are going back to marketing, but it's all, it's very hard to separate that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, so how do you find the right people? Well, there is unfortunately no magic place on the internet or in the world where all the people who want to throw money at you hang out. So it's going where your clients are, to the degree that you can. For most of my clients, that's on LinkedIn. But, there are other means to do that too, optimizing your website, all of these things. Go where they are, talk about things that are important to them, position your own work in terms of value, so that, back to our earlier example, you have the people reaching out to you who say, we need to deposition a competitor and really establish ourselves as a number one, not the people who say, I need 3 blog posts.
Totally. Having people who understand the outcomes and the long-term ramifications of working with you, and they're willing to invest because they see a return on investment to that.
Absolutely. You may be able to hear my toddler downstairs.
Okay. The life of working from home. It's lovely.
Yeah.
My kids are back in school for the summer anyway, full time. So I'm like, the house is so quiet.
It would be nice. It would be nice. My 2-year-old is not there yet.
No, so, 2-year-olds don't get there. That's
he,
not.
He often makes appearances on Zoom calls.
Well, he's always welcome to come hang out with me. So once you establish a relationship with somebody, whether they sign with you or not, I was thinking about that final stage of, the awareness, the familiarity, the consideration, the purchase, and then the loyalty. Let's talk a little bit about the loyalty piece, about creating people who can become return clients, who can become ambassadors or affiliates for you. How do you continue to maintain those people as either, ongoing clients, referral sources, or some other relationship with them?
Yeah. Well, and I think this is going to be a little different from business to business. For some businesses, it might make sense to have a robust affiliate program because, but for others, it may be more about just maintaining the relationship. Are you sending out a newsletter? Are you connected to them on LinkedIn? Have you armed them with the tools to refer you to other people? I think oftentimes we take for granted the fact that people know what it is we do and our, the value we provide and all the people that we provide it for. So it's often about making sure that even people who are no longer working with you stay connected and you continually illustrate the value you provide. That's just, that's on the referral side. On the repeat customer side, I think, part of the thing I think that a lot of people sort of overlook is the opportunity to do ongoing work, right? Ongoing support work that doesn't, maybe it's not a heavy lift. Maybe you don't sort of turn into the implementation person, but, I think part of it is, and I think people forget that this is possible. And part of it is they're so busy doing the work, right? And then you get to the end of the work and the work is over. And so, one thing that I think it's important is creating space to talk about how did it go? How is it going? So that you can almost do more discovery with your current clients and perhaps uncover opportunities where they still need the value you provide.
Yeah. And recognizing that even though an engagement has ended, the client's work on whatever it is that you're working on is probably not over. So I worked with you in a 10-week coaching program to learn about how to sell, but that doesn't mean I stopped selling. It just means we stopped meeting up at a weekly basis. So what are some ways I can continue to get support? You know, you have an alumni community on Slack, and ways that if I want to re-engage with you, I can always dip back in. And I always am kind of up to date on what are the things that I could do next with you, or I can repeat going through the program and get some support on that. And I'm just using you as an example. I'm not trying to, you know, but like, what are some ways that you can continue to, I have a, you know, an ongoing membership after people have finished the Attract and Activate program, because they're still doing SEO and new questions are always coming up. It's just, they're different questions based on what it is that you're experiencing. So the first time you write a blog post, you're like, but where do I do the keyword research? And then, you know, 6 months, 9 months, 2 years later, you're going, but how do I optimize this? What do I do with this? Now these rules change. Now this algorithm's different. You know, being able to create a space for your fans to either be your ambassadors or continue to remain in your orbit. It can be so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny that you mentioned this, because we're actually testing something new in this next round of my program Signed. So you do the 10 weeks and then you're in a coaching community for a year.
Oh.
Because every sales situation is a little bit different, you know, and as your business grows, you encounter different questions, not just about selling, but about client relationships or mindset or motivation. You know, much like your people are in the, you know, where do I do the keyword research? And then they go to refinement, right?
Yeah.
And so in order to provide that, that value and really help implement the learnings. See, now you're hearing my dog.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad I have headphones, and otherwise my dog would be like, where's the dog?
You know, so we're providing that support. So instead of having it as like you know, a thing that you might need or might not need, we're building it in so that you're never quite alone as you sort of go out and sell.
I love that. So tell people kind of what are the ways that they can work with you?
Sure.
And where they can find you online too.
Sure. The best place to find me online, well, besides my website, which is smartgetspaid.com, is I do a whole lot on LinkedIn. And that's like my social channel of choice. And if you are a podcast person, I have a podcast called the Smart Gets Paid Podcast. The ways that you can work with me. So let's go back to the purchase funnel, right? The awareness and lead gen, and the actually closing the sales for
I love this.
I have a program called Pack Your Pipeline, which is how to use LinkedIn to get in front of your ideal clients, bring them into your orbit, and start to fill your pipeline with the right kinds of clients. Like you said, the ones that have the problem you solve, see your value, all of that. So
and just really quickly, when we say pipeline, we mean people who might be interested in working with you and moving them through that process.
Yes.
I just wanted to find the term.
The client, yes, the client pipeline. So that's Pack Your Pipeline. I have another program when you talk about sort of taking potential clients all the way through to a signed contract. That is, I teach people in Signed how to master the sales process, get really comfortable selling, get more yeses, and then charge and get paid dramatically more.
I love that. So guys, go check out Leah, smartgetspaid.com, Smart Gets Paid podcast, and LinkedIn, apparently.
Very much so. Yeah.
So many of my people all drive to Instagram, but I was ready to be like, and here's our Instagram handle, but nope, LinkedIn.
Yep.
All right. Yep. Thank you so much for your time today, Leah.